Welcome to the deep dive. We've got an awesome set of sources you sent us, and today we are diving headfirst into the Indian Ocean. You really wanted to get a strong grasp of its essentials, and we're going to try to deliver on that.
The materials you've provided give us a really comprehensive look, from its sheer size to, its critical role in global affairs.
Totally. I mean, it's one of the biggest oceans out there, and it touches so many different parts of the world. Our goal today is to pull out those really fascinating and important insights, give you a clear understanding of this major world ocean.
It's a fascinating one for sure.
Yeah, so to kick things off, let's get a handle on the basics. Size and location. Where exactly does this giant body of water fit on the map?
Well, the Indian Ocean comes in as the third largest ocean on Earth.
Oh, wow. Third largest. Okay.
Yeah, covering about 20% of the Earth's water surface.
That's a lot of water.
It is 73.56 million square kilometers, or if you prefer, 28.4 million square miles.
Wow. That's massive.
To give you a sense of scale, it's almost double the size of Russia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so huge area.
All right. So huge in size.
Right.
And where is it exactly? Like, what are its boundaries?
All right, so picture this. To the west, you've got the entire continent of Africa.
Okay, Africa.
To the north, the massive landmass of Asia.
Okay.
To the east, you've got Australia, and then that whole intricate, web of islands that make up Southeast Asia.
Right. So many countries.
And finally, down south, it merges with the Southern Ocean and the icy reaches of Antarctica.
Okay. So bordered by pretty much every continent except, well, North and South America.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got the size, we've got the location, and we've got the boundaries. What about depth? I mean, we're talking about an ocean here. It's got to be pretty deep.
Oh, yeah, it gets seriously deep. The average depth is about 3,741 meters, which is over 12,000 feet.
Okay, that's already deep.
But the real showstopper is its deepest point, way down in the Java Trench, also known as the Sunda Trench. It plunges to a mind-blowing 7,258 meters. That's almost 24,000 feet.
That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall.
Yeah, imagine the pressure down there. It's like having the weight of several jumbo jets pressing down on every square inch.
It's hard to even fathom that kind of pressure. So we've got this massive, deep ocean. Let's talk about the countries that share its shores.
All right, let's start in the north, that long stretch of the Asian coastline.
Okay.
We've got major players like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan.
Right.
And then moving west along the coast, you hit the Arabian Peninsula. So countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, UAE, they all have coastlines along the Indian Ocean.
So many important countries, all connected by this one ocean.
Absolutely. And then over on the western side, bordering Africa, you've got Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and of course, South Africa. And let's not forget the island nation of Madagascar.
Yeah, Madagascar, a whole world of its own right there.
Exactly, with a unique coastline that adds to the diversity of the region.
And what about the eastern side, with Australia and those Southeast Asian islands?
So on the east, you've got the Indonesian archipelago, which is massive in itself. Then you've got mainland Australia and countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and even the bustling city-state of Singapore.
Wow, so it really does touch a huge variety of nations and cultures.
It's a true crossroads, geographically and culturally.
All right, so we've covered the countries, but what about the actual geography of the ocean itself? What are some of the key features that make it unique?
It's not just a big, empty expanse of water. The Indian Ocean has some incredible geographical features that play a huge role in its character and, its importance on the global stage.
So what are we talking about here? Islands, underwater mountains, what else?
Well, let's start with the straits.
Okay, straits. Those are those narrow waterways connecting different seas, right?
Exactly. And they're incredibly important, often serving as choke points for trade or even military movement. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, for example, connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden.
Yeah.
Control over this strait has been, historically super important, and even today, its stability is crucial for global oil supply lines. It's a real geopolitical hotspot.
So it's not just geography. It's politics and economics all tied together.
Totally. And then you have the Malacca Strait between peninsular Malaysia and the Indonesian island of Sumatra.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Isn't that one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world?
It is, for sure. It's a vital artery for global trade, the kind of place where any disruption would have a ripple effect on economies all over the planet.
It's amazing to think about the sheer volume of goods that pass through that strait every day.
It's mind-boggling. And then there's the Hormuz Strait.
Okay, another strait.
Yeah, this one connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, and it's absolutely critical for oil transportation.
So energy security, that's what this one is all about.
Exactly. A huge percentage of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow strait, so its stability is a constant concern. It makes you wonder if there are any ways to lessen our reliance on these choke points, alternative routes or technologies maybe. It's a
Hmm.
question a lot of people are trying to answer.
Yeah, the stakes are so high. All right, so we've got these critical straits. What about islands? I know the Indian Ocean has some pretty famous islands.
Oh yeah, tons of them, all scattered across this vast expanse. You've got the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which are part of India.
Okay.
And then further west, you have the beautiful islands of Mauritius, Seychelles, Comoros.
Paradise Islands.
Totally. And of course, the Maldives, famous for those overwater bungalows and amazing diving.
Each one a unique little world of its own.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's Madagascar. It's not part of an archipelago. It's a massive island all on its own, the largest in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, Madagascar is like a mini continent with incredible wildlife and diverse ecosystems.
Totally unique.
So we've got straits, we've got islands. What other important geographical features are we missing?
Well, besides all that, the Indian Ocean also contains several major seas.
Okay, seas. So like smaller bodies of water within the larger ocean?
Right. Essentially large basins within the broader Indian Ocean. You've got the Arabian Sea, nestled between the Arabian Peninsula and India. It's a historically significant body of water with tons of maritime history.
Lots of trade routes and ancient civilizations connected to that one.
Absolutely. Then you've got the Bay of Bengal to the northeast, bordered by India and Southeast Asia. It's known for its unique weather patterns, particularly the monsoons and all those major rivers that flow into it, which have a huge impact on the marine environment.
Wow, so many factors at play.
Yeah, and then there's the Mozambique Channel, separating Madagascar from mainland Africa. It plays a big role in regional currents and marine life.
Okay, so kind of like a highway for marine creatures?
You could say that.
Hmm.
And we can't forget about the coral reefs.
Oh, yeah, those are incredible. The Indian Ocean has some of the most vibrant reefs in the world.
Yeah, like underwater cities teeming with life. Of course, everyone knows the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia, which technically is in the Coral Sea,
Oh, right.
but it's still very much connected to the broader Indian Ocean ecosystem.
Okay, so it's all interconnected.
And beyond the Great Barrier Reef, you've got equally important, coral reefs around the Seychelles, the Maldives.
So beautiful.
We're crucial for supporting marine biodiversity and, even protecting coastlines from erosion.
So they're not just pretty, they're essential to the health of the ocean.
Absolutely. And the Chagos Archipelago also has a massive coral reef system that's relatively pristine, a true biodiversity hotspot.
Hmm.
But the thing is, when corals bleach and die, it's not just the corals that suffer. It's like all the fish that depend on them for shelter and food, they disappear too. That impacts local fisheries and messes with the entire food chain.
So it's a domino effect.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the geography, the countries, the features. It's clear that the Indian Ocean is geographically diverse and incredibly complex. But why does all this matter? Why should our listeners care about this particular ocean?
Well, the Indian Ocean isn't just some remote body of water. It plays a massive role in how the world works, in ways that directly affect all of us.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? Like, what makes it so important?
Well, let's start with global trade. As we talk about with those straits, the Indian Ocean is a major, major shipping route. A colossal amount of stuff like raw materials, finished products, all kinds of goods move through its waters every single day. It's the lifeblood of global commerce.
It's like the interstate highway system of the world, but for ships.
Exactly. It's essential for transporting oil, gas, and tons of other commodities that we rely on every day. Think about those major port hubs like Mumbai, Singapore, Cape Town, Dubai. They're all located along the Indian Ocean, and they're crucial nodes in this global network of trade.
Right, so these aren't just regional ports, they connect the entire world.
Exactly.
Okay, so global trade, that's huge. What else?
Well, the Indian Ocean also has a big impact on something we all experience: climate and weather.
Oh, yeah, the weather. Can't escape that.
Really influences the climate of the surrounding regions. Think about the monsoon winds in the Indian subcontinent. They're driven by temperature differences between the land and the ocean, and they bring these seasonal shifts in wind direction that cause massive rains.
Yeah, the monsoons are a huge deal for India and Southeast Asia.
They're not just about rain. They affect agriculture, water resources, the whole rhythm of life for millions of people. It's like the Earth's breathing and the Indian Ocean is part of that breath.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
And then there's the Indian Ocean Dipole, or IOD for short. It's a climate phenomenon that can lead to extreme weather events, like really bad droughts in some areas and devastating floods in others. It's like a seesaw of sea surface temperatures across the ocean, and it can have huge consequences. Just a few years ago, we saw the negative phase of the IOD cause massive floods in Southeast Asia, displacing people, hurting agriculture. It shows you how these ocean processes have real impacts on human lives.
It's a reminder that the ocean isn't just this passive thing, it actively shapes our world.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got global trade, we've got climate. What about the life within the ocean itself?
Oh, the Indian Ocean is teeming with life. It's a rich ecosystem with a huge variety of fish species, those incredible coral reefs we talked about, marine mammals like dolphins and whales. It's a complex web of life.
It sounds beautiful.
It is. And it's not just about beauty. These marine ecosystems provide food and livelihoods for people all around the Indian Ocean. So biodiversity is directly linked to human well-being.
Okay, so it's about more than just pretty pictures. It's about food security, livelihoods.
Exactly.
And considering those strategically important straits we discussed, it's probably no surprise that the Indian Ocean is also a major source of energy resources.
Yeah, this region is a hub for oil and natural gas. The Persian Gulf, as we mentioned, is one of the most important oil-producing regions in the world, and the Indian Ocean is how a lot of that oil gets to the rest of us.
So it's vital to global energy security.
Absolutely.
And given all this, the Indian Ocean must also be a pretty important place geopolitically.
Well, considering its location, the trade routes, the energy resources, the Indian Ocean is strategically super important. Major powers like India, China, and the U.S. all have a significant presence in the region. It's a place where global power dynamics are constantly at play.
So it's not just about the environment and the economy, it's also about global security.
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about all the reasons why the Indian Ocean is so important. But what about the challenges? I mean, no place is perfect, right?
Unfortunately, the Indian Ocean is facing some pretty serious environmental challenges.
Oh yeah, I bet. What are the big ones?
Well, one of the biggest is pollution.
I was going to say, with all that shipping traffic, there's got to be some pollution.
Yeah, plastic waste, oil spills, all sorts of contaminants are finding their way into the ocean, and they're having a really bad impact on coastal areas and marine life.
It's a global problem, but it seems like the Indian Ocean is particularly vulnerable.
It is. And then there's overfishing.
Too many fish being taken out.
Yeah, many fish stocks in the Indian Ocean are being exploited at unsustainable levels, which is really bad for the health of the ocean in the long run.
Right, if we keep taking out more than the ocean can replenish, we're gonna have problems.
Exactly. And we can't forget about those coral reefs we talked about. They're under serious threat, too. Rising sea temperatures and ocean acidification, both caused by climate change, are leading to coral bleaching events, which are devastating for these vibrant ecosystems.
So those beautiful reefs are at risk.
They are, and the consequences for marine biodiversity are huge.
So many interconnected challenges.
It's a complex web of issues for sure.
All right, so we've got pollution, overfishing, climate change impacting the reefs. What else did your research tell you about the Indian Ocean?
Well, the sources you shared also mentioned some key ocean currents that circulate within the Indian Ocean.
Oh, yeah, currents. Those are those giant rivers of water flowing within the ocean, right?
Exactly. They play a crucial role in moving heat and nutrients around the globe. One of the most important is the Agulhas Current, which flows along the southeastern coast of Africa.
Oh.
It's a powerful current that carries warm water from the Indian Ocean into the South Atlantic, and that transfer of heat affects weather patterns far beyond the Indian Ocean itself.
So it's part of this global climate regulation system.
Absolutely. And then you have the equatorial currents, which flow westward along the equator.
Okay.
They're driven by those steady trade winds, and they basically move warm surface water towards Africa.
Right, right. And I remember reading about the Somali Current. That one seemed particularly interesting because it actually changes direction.
Yeah, the Somali Current is really unique. It's seasonal, meaning it reverses direction depending on the monsoon winds. During the summer monsoon, it flows north, bringing up cold, nutrient-rich water from the depths. It's like the ocean's way of fertilizing itself, creating the perfect conditions for marine life to thrive.
It's amazing how the monsoons and the currents are all connected.
It is. It all ties together.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the geography, the countries, the features, the challenges, the currents. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are the big takeaways you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, the Indian Ocean is way more than just a big body of water. It's a vital part of the global system, affecting trade, climate, and geopolitics. It's also a place of immense beauty and biodiversity, but it's facing some serious threats.
So it's a place of both opportunity and challenge.
Exactly. It connects continents, cultures, and economies, and its health is essential to all of us.
It really underscores how interconnected our world is.
It does.
So, thinking about everything we've discussed, what do you think is the single biggest challenge facing the Indian Ocean in the coming decades? And what might be a surprising consequence of that challenge, something we haven't even considered today? That's something for our listeners to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring the Indian Ocean with you, and thanks for sharing these fascinating sources. It's been a great conversation.
It has. Thanks again.
Anytime.